All right, so welcome. It's Tuesday. I'll be here tomorrow. Probably just barely got back from Denver about right now, if you're in the morning class, or asleep right now if you're in the afternoon class. All right, so what we're going to do today is actually part of the next lab book. So the first thing I need you to do, and the sub can go ahead and pause this in a second, but I need you to get your own piece of paper out. And then you're going to label it 1 through 15. And the title of this activity, let's go ahead and we'll just call this the separation of substances. All right. So go ahead and pause that, or this, and do that. All right, and what this activity is designed to do, we're doing it for a couple reasons. Number one is to get used to classifying things based on their physical or chemical properties. Everything we do today will be based on their physical properties and your written observations of what you look at. So number one, it's to get used to classifying things. Number two reason that we're doing this is to introduce the idea of a flow chart. So on your paper, flip it over to the other side and let's just talk about flow charts for a second. Take just a little bit of notes. A flow chart is essentially a yes or no question. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So a flow chart will always be a yes or no question that we ask that helps us break things into groups. All right, so for instance, and this is in your homework actually, but it says to make a flow chart that we can use to separate cats, rats, and dogs. So first off, usually have you do this on your own. Well, let's say, does it bark? All right, that would be my initial question. Does it bark? And it doesn't matter which way you go, but I'm going to say yes on this side. And to me, only a dog barks. Now, maybe a rat or a cat with a cold might sound like they're barking, but I don't think so. All right, then the next question, to kind of go along with bark, why don't we ask if it meows? And then our no over here, we would be left with a rat. And over here, our yes, we would be left with a cat. So this would be a classification system we could actually follow. If we find something and it barks, we would say, all right, it's most likely a dog. If it didn't bark or meow, we would say it's most likely a rat. So notice these are yes, no questions based on properties. We never said, is it a rat? Yes, rat. Okay, we don't ask just what is it. We ask properties of it. So another example that we do is and just look around your room for a second. I'm just going to kind of make this up. But if I wanted to separate our group of people in this class based on some of their physical properties, the first question I might ask is, are they a boy? All right, yes and no. So right there, by classification, we've now cut the group maybe in half. It depends on each group that we have. But now we can ask a secondary question. All right, let's ask about the boys. We could have another yes, another no. And let's say, do they have blue eyes? Whatever, eyes. All right, and I don't know who does. I know I do, so I'll just put Dav right there for me. And then no, let's pretend that we have John and he doesn't have blue eyes. So now we have that classified, and really there's way more people. We could ask more questions and more questions if we want. Let's come over here and we ask another question. We can ask the same one. Blue eyes. All right, and then no, and then yes. And let's just say Jane. And then no, let's say we wanted to break that group down even farther. We could say, do they have long hair? And that's kind of subjective, but for now it's good enough. And we'd say yes, and then we would put everyone with long hair here. All right, and anyone that was a female with not blue eyes and short hair would go here, and we'll just say Kate. All right, that is two examples now of a flowchart. What we're going to do today is we're going to take and observe 15 different substances, and we're going to write down what they look like. And let me come over to this one. Let's see if this will work. Perfect. All right, so you'll go around the room, and you'll see there's 15 test tubes that have their number on a piece of tape, and then they have something in them. So you'll kind of rotate. They'll be all throughout the lab. But you'll just come up and say you pick up number 15. So number 15, first off, it might be hard to see, but it is a liquid, so that would be a good thing to write. If you look at it, you will notice, hopefully pretty easily, that it's a yellowish reddish colored liquid. It flows real easy, and I don't know, there are some black floaties in there. That's just part of the cork, so you can ignore those. All right, and you would just write as much detail about what 15 looks like as possible. Then you would have 13, and it's a liquid as well, and it's probably very hard to see, but it's just clear. Now, do not write that number 13 is water. It probably is, but we're not writing what things are. We're describing what they look like. And then number 3, you might be able to see, is kind of light brown. It is a solid. It looks kind of like sand, so you could describe that as well. So now, once you have all 15 of those, your assignment is to make a flow chart that will break the 15 pieces, things down into 5 separate groups. So let's come back to this. All right. So let's say, and I already forgot the numbers I had, but let's just say they're here. I had a, let's see, yellow liquid. I had a clear liquid, and then I had a solid. It was brown. It was chunky, and whatever. So let's make a small version of what your assignment will be now based on this. So the easiest question first off to separate these to me is either is it a solid or is it a liquid? So I'm going to say a liquid. I don't know why it changes colors. I'm going to put yes over here and no over here. Now over here I'm not going to ask any more questions. So if I don't ask questions, I just put what the number was, and for this we're going to say it was number 3. So I put number 3 here. Now I want to separate the two liquids apart, so why don't I just say clear? All right, and then the yes, we said for this instance that was number 2. And this one, the no, yes, the no would have been number 1. So now we would have a flow chart that breaks them down into 3 separate groups. Now you only, for this example, have to go to 5 separate groups. Don't try and separate these down into 15 different groups. That's a massive flow chart. Your flow chart should look something like this when you are done. So now we're at 3, 4, so you need to ask one more. So you'll go here. It should look something like that. And then these are the ones where you will list the numbers. Everywhere else, you would be listing the questions. All right, I hope that that was good. Now, it doesn't matter if you flip sides or whatever. I hope that was good enough. So now just walk around the room and you do this individually. Find the 15 test tubes. Take your observations and write them, and then make a flow chart. And we'll look through that when I get back on Wednesday. Now there's 2 sets of the 15. So you don't need to say, hey, Davidson, there's 2 3s. I know that. So anyway, just go ahead and look around, and good luck.